Well, hello and welcome back to the vlog. This vlog's a little different from what I normally do. Normally, the camera's just in my face and I talk shite and we'll upload that. But I think this vlog needed me to sit down and kind of know what I wanted to say. There was loads of things that I wanted to kind of cover, and every time I went to kind of cover them at the ABR, it was either really loud, dusty. I didn't really get a chance, so I said, you know what, I'll wait till I come back and I'll sit down and I'll talk about my experience on heading to the ABR in 2025. I think the first thing I want to talk about is what bike that I actually took. So I did take the trusty Honda CRF 300L. Why? I definitely feel more confident on the smaller bike as opposed to the Pan America. So last year I obviously went to the ABR and brought the Pan America with me. I've never been off road in my life, so last year I did spend a couple of days going around the beginners trail, trying to get used to such a large bike off road. I'll stick the ABR playlist for last year on the screen there for anyone that wants to bother having a look at that and see how I got on. Didn't crash, didn't die, it's all good. So I kind of left the ABR in 2024 absolutely buzzing, thinking like, wow, off-roading, this is just like a side of biking that I've never really kind of paid attention to, and definitely opened my eyes. Kind of came back to Ireland, and it's very difficult to find trails as a beginner in Ireland on a large adventure bike. You kind of have to, be really sure of yourself. And in most of the places, you're not sure if you can turn around. And I'm small. I'm only 5'5". So trying to turn a Pan America around in a tight spot is a little bit of a challenge. So as those who follow the channel know, I went out late last year. I managed to get this beast beside me, and completely changed the game for me. Much more confident about the whole thing. Like, I went to the ABR with zero confidence and zero skills. Probably left the ABR with a 3 out of 10 in confidence for off-roading, and maybe 0.5 of skill out of 10. And since getting the CRF, I'm just a lot more confident about going down wherever, whatever. I'll give it a go. I'll try anything at my moderately slow pace, and we'll have at it. I've obviously done training with Steve from More Ireland. Link on the screen to how that went, and that really upped my confidence, and gave me a little bit more skill, and that was fine. So just it's a great bike. I suppose I kind of in my head went, if I was outside Ragley Hall with the Pan America or the CRF, which one would I drive in? And I just thought, the CRF is the machine that I should be doing this on. So with that in mind, then I obviously had to worry about, smaller pack. I couldn't bring some creature comforts, so I had a smaller tent. I know stool. I had no chair, so that was fine. You just get on with it. My Lomo bags were great. I had two 12 liters on the side, and I had my 20 liter on the top. And I think overall I was carrying about 15-ish kg in weight. So I didn't want to bog the bike down, because originally when I was going on the Pan America, the idea was to go to Belfast, do the Lake District Hard Knock Pass, and then travel down, visit the Bobhead boys. And when I decided to do the smaller bike, I was like, I need to kind of change that. And so I did. With that in mind, I changed my ferry to Dublin. And I reached out to Rob and said, I'll go over with you. And, that was fine. And I did that. So, the bike can do the distance, and it's not a problem. You'll give up long before the bike does in terms of comfort. But with a 7 liter fuel tank, about 100 kilometers, you'll be stopping to fill up, and you can take a break and let your ass recover. It can definitely do motorway, I think, with all the gear on it, and obviously I'm wearing all my armor and everything. You definitely feel the weight of the bike. So 80, 90 was probably kilometers an hour is probably as fast as I was kind of felt comfortable with. So I obviously put more off-road orientated tires, and after much deliberation, I went with Michelin trackers. Now, people warn you about Michelin trackers, and every warning that you've read or seen a video on is true. They track every line on the road. They're noisy at high speed. They're not the most confident, inspiring on a very wet road. Well, off road, they give you all that confidence. You know you're going to get that turn. Not that I'm like, going overly fast, but you feel that when you turn that front wheel, that bike is just going to track around the corner. So yeah, really, really good. I did have a couple of skid around the corner on the wet roads on the Welsh mountains, and I did hit a cattle grid and completely locked up the front to the left. I caught it and it didn't come off, but that was a brown pants moment. Yeah, but I think any heavily off-road oriented tire does not like cattle grids, and the ones in Wales are square and they're not round. Really, really weird. But anyhow, I didn't crash. A great tire does raise the bike a little bit, which is obviously an issue if you're small like me. But anyhow, an absolute great tire. So I suppose before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, I definitely want to say a big thank you to Decky and Lisa for their understanding about changing my route, and obviously hanging out with them at their fancy tent and then using their facilities, which was great. And then, of course, Sid, who brought his camper van. Unfortunately, Sid had a timing chain issue on his bike after the hard knock pass, so he didn't have any bike for the trails, but he did obviously help us with food on a couple of the evenings, which was absolutely fantastic. Really just reduced the cost of spending the money at the festival, and it was great crack, good company. So thank you to them. A big shout out to Rob and Owen, who without their help I would not have attempted the Welsh TET. And thanks to Owen for giving me a TET sticker for the bike. So the bike's going to get a good clean, and then I'm going to pepper it with all the stickers that I've been collecting and got at it. And I suppose lastly, then shout out to Steve from More Ireland. I think his training that we did, I'll stick the video on the screen there for that one, I think really helped me be a lot more confident going to this. My goal for this ABR was to complete the Bridgestone Trail in full. If I didn't do anything else other than that, I was very, very happy, and that was my goal. And as you'll find out later on, that's mission completed. So Steve had offered to bring me out in the TRF, and I said, yeah, cool. And I stupidly forgot to ask what time, and I missed the boys. And that was that. So anyway, that was completely and utterly my fault. Yeah, the trip down was fine on the motorway. It was grand. Got on the ferry. I've never met Rob, and I never met Owen, and they hadn't met each other. They met each other the night before for the first time. So I think we're all just trying to making sure we all weren't psychopaths. Rob's on a 250 rally, and Owen was on a Tenere. So it was an interesting mix of bikes. I was very impressed with the lads' ability to ride them bikes off road. They're way beyond me. I think last year I would have left the ABR feeling, maybe a 2 or 3 out of 10 for confidence and a 0.5 for skill set. But obviously after the training, I felt a lot more confident. I say I went to Wales. I went to the trip this year with maybe I felt like 8 out of 10 in confidence. I was really confident, and my skill level was probably 3, 4 out of 10. I was like, I'll give something a go. What's the worst that can happen? This bike is easy to pick up. It's well protected with bark busters and engine guards and all that, and skid plates and stuff like that. So I'm not going to be going too fast. So fair play to Owen and Rob for looking after me on the TET. We did have a slight navigational error, and I pulled over and told the lads, look, I'm just going to follow the TET line. Then I found the first little section, which turned out to be the second section because somehow I managed to miss the first bit, and it was not suitable for large cars or whatever. And I got down, there was a camper van there, and then that was it. You were on this first section, and I did a slight navigational error, had to cross I had to cut across a little field here, and then I got to my first gate, which the UK off roads is notorious for gates. So we met our first gate. I got parked at the gate. I was like, will I, won't I? I'm not 100% sure whether I, because I was on my own. I didn't know where the lads were. And yeah, then the lads turned up, and that was fine. So I'd kind of gone through the gate, so I had the gate open for when they turned up. And yeah, we kind of went in, and it looked like a little gentle rise of like a rocky off-road section, and then it just turned into this like really gnarly descent down into the town. So you could see the town. Now I've driven through the town before, and there's a massive mine all out of the hill. And when you're on the first section of that TET, you're kind of level with that mine. So I knew it was quite high up. Yeah, it just turned into a very very steep rocky descent through a couple of gates. Rob closed the first gate, and I think he was a little overexcited. Now my GoPro, I have the video footage as you can see, but I have no audio. For some reason, it didn't record any audio. And Rob came down through the gate and yeah, screaming like a little child. It was very funny, but he went for it. He just gunned it straight past us and got all the way down. So we did the first section, and yeah, fair play to the lads for looking after me and making sure I was okay. I really, really do appreciate that. It wasn't too long. I'd say we were 10, 15 minutes just getting through the first bit, and then we were obviously back out onto the road. The next section we met was actually closed. There was a big closed sign on it. And then we ended up going on a bit further, and then we found the next little section, which was straight up like this to the side of a mountain or whatever, a large hill. I'm not really sure what it was. And it was loose dirt, loose rock, muck, very, very sharp left right turns. And I kind of stalled it on the hill. Then Owen went past me, and we got all the way up, and then Owen was like, "No, stop!" And I thought Rob would come off, but it turned out to be a bridge that we 1 or 2 feet concrete block up onto a bridge with really slippy wood, only one handrail, and a 16, 20 foot drop. I think we would have probably got the CRFs up it. But we wouldn't got the 10 ray up it, so we decided not to do it. We turned around, and I think that was pretty much the end of the off roading for the day. And then we made our way to Moto Camp Wales, which is where I skidded the tire and almost hit the cattle grid wrong. And we got to Moto Camp Wales. I have to say, at that point, I was tired. I was exhausted. I just wanted to climb into a bed. But I was like, oh, bring me tent. It's going to be great. And yeah, I set my tent up under protest, and then we walked down to the local town. Had lovely food. We even managed to get a lift home from a very interesting chap. Owen loved him, and that was fine. We managed to do that. So yeah, so I popped my tech cherry. Not a lot. There wasn't really that much, but I did it, and I was delighted and dropped the bike, and yeah, and that was kind of pretty much the end of the first day. So after that, then it was so after that we said our goodbyes the next morning. Owen and Rob were going off to do more of the TET and drive on some bridge. They were going to do Bastard Lane. I'm really good at, after seeing some of the pictures that they did, I'm really, really good that I had a Thursday ticket for the ABR. I'm not at all. um, Fair play to the two lads. I have some pictures here that I'll put up of them. They got stuck in mud. They had to get a 4x4 to pull the 10 ray out. Um, it looks like the water went over the exhaust. He got the bike started. They fell over. Rob cut his hand. They looked like they had an absolute pure adventure. Now, in saying that, if I had gone with them, I probably would have chickened out and just said, "No, that's it's not for me." But I honestly believe if I had went with them, they would have looked after me in anyway, and I would have tried. But anyway, they looked like they had an absolute blast. They got stuck. Uh, I think 2 or 3 hours away from their accommodation late in the evening. They ended up staying somewhere else and they got well looked after. And that's what I mean. I think these towns in and around the town are well used to some idiot on a bike who's way behind their schedule, and they will look after them. And they did. They got well looked after by the locals. So that's great to see, to be honest with you. So I made my way to the ABR, and I met up with Can-Am Girl UK. She is actually going to North Cape next month. So we touched base, met up for coffee, shared some stories, and she was asking me a lot of questions about going to NordCap, which is great. She was a supporter of my NordCap 2024 link on the screen, and her husband Andy's name was one of the loved ones on the flag. So I read out Andy's name at the monument for her. So it was really good to meet her. Anyway, after that, I left and headed straight to the ABR itself. I suppose the best way to describe, the best way to probably cover the ABR is I'll talk about the positives and the negatives. What I don't want this to be is I'm not overly critical of the ABR itself. I think everyone goes to the ABR for different reasons, and they do a very, very good job at accommodating all these different reasons as to why someone would go to the festival. Um, so yeah, I think they do a very good job of that. So I said, like, the check-in was super easy, and they 2 check-in points. I didn't have any problems. I didn't have any problems last year. I arrived about 4 hours earlier than I did last year. And I think because there was no VIP camping, it was just like a super Thursday ticket. All the campsites were open. They were all open last year, and anyway, everyone kind of headed into the VIP. So when I got to my campsite, where I had planned on camping in the same spot last year, because I was hoping to meet some people that I had met last year, we all kind of said we'll come back to the same spot. It's pretty much full, which was very strange. So I like to camp in against the edge, so you don't have people walking past your tent, or sometimes you might have a bike trying to get past your tent and stuff like that. And met a lovely lad whose name escapes me. I'll put his Instagram handle on the screen. He was camped beside me. I asked him, could I camp there? He was, can we be buddies, be neighbors and all that? And he was like, cool, grand. He's a really nice chap. Yeah, he was sound, and I didn't notice anyone else that I knew from last year. But then again, I'm really shit remembering who people are. So yeah, so that got set up, and on a Thursday, I think by the time I did that, that was about as much as I got kind of really done on the Thursday. Kind of went over, met Decky Lisa. They're easy to find because they're in the Bell tent. And that was that we walked around. Some of the stalls that were kind of still open, the manufacturers, kind of those that have bikes out, we went over and sat in them, etc. And that was absolutely fine. And then that night we went and had our free drink, and pretty much called it an early night. Then after that, it's quite tired. So the positives, right? So check-in absolutely fine. Staff are super friendly, really nice. The music, if you're into music, um, very well catered for. The mariachi band was actually pretty cool. I kind of caught a little bit of them, but where I was sitting with Lisa and Decky, you could actually kind of hear the main stage, and you could kind of hear the music there. Look, there's music for everybody. There's the silent disco, but where I was sitting with Lisa and Decky, you could actually kind of hear the main stage, and you could kind of hear the music there. Look, there's music for everybody. There's the silent disco. That was also something that was on. There's that. So yeah, the music is where it is. I've been a musician for 25 years, so the music is not. I'm not really interested in the music. The food, can't fault the food. There's absolutely tons to pick from. I think it's moderately priced. You're in a festival. I don't think you can really complain about the price of food. Thursday ticket didn't come with free food, though last year there seemed to be a free food menu and then the proper menu, because we did go and get a free burger, and then one of my friends got the burger from the same stall the next day, and there's definitely a difference in the size of the burger. But anyway, there was no free food with your Thursday ticket. That was grand. So yeah, so there's loads to choose from. Like if you're looking to buy anything for your bike, if you're looking to buy anything for your bike, there's hundreds of stalls. Everyone was there. You're gonna pick up what you want. I don't think you're gonna have an issue with that. The demo rides, yeah. I did the demo in the Pan America last year. They struggled with the coverage to kind of check you in, but I did meet a guy on the way back last year. He did like over 20 demo rides. He wasn't fussy about what bike he took. He just went to the shortest queue. Like if you want to get your hands on a demo bike to go for a demo on the trails, I'd say get there early, but you can. I'll talk more about the demo rides in a minute. So look, I think to try and pull off a festival of that size, 17,500 people, is impressive. You can't please everybody, and like I said, everyone goes for different reasons. Which my specific reason, the reason I went to ride the trails because living in Ireland, there's no trails that you can actually just go for a spin on. You have to kind of be very select. You never know who you're going to meet. And of course, you never know if you're going to meet someone coming the other way. So the Bridgestone Trail, the TRF Trail, the Beginner's Trail, they're all one way. So you know you're not going to meet a car coming the other way. They've got a nice mix of difficulty. The Beginner's Trail this year was much simpler than last year. It was just like a straight, like a loop around, really, really nice. And yeah, so I think that's the reason I went. I didn't go to watch live music. Food is food. I didn't need anything to buy anything. That was that. Like I did go over. Actually, I got my Remotech controller, which I'm absolutely delighted about. Delighted to meet the company, and that was really cool. So I'm delighted with them. But yeah, I went to ride the trails. So I suppose what I'll do is I'll just discuss the negatives things about it. Is like I said, you can't please everybody. The trails. I went on the trails with Decky, and we were first in the queue. Um, that was the closest I got to Decky. I think I lost him by the second turn. So I'm obviously not fast. So the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour. And I'd say I was doing about 30, 35 for most of it, if not a little bit slower. The trails this year were insanely busy. Really, really busy. I was buzzed past quite a lot. I pulled over a good bit to let people go past me. I did take over an hour to do the Bridgestone Trail, which I know is quite probably long. I'm not here to race. I did crash, so I did crash. I honestly have no idea what happened. It was a rut, quite a deep rut. I landed near a marshal in the bushes, and gave a big cheer or whatever. I was trying to compose myself to get back on the bike, and originally I thought someone had actually beeped me. When I looked around, I seen this Tenere, and I was like, "Shit, Jesus, I better get going." And I think looking back on the footage, which I'm hoping to share on the screen here, I thought he was a little bit impatient, but he just wanted to get around because obviously it was two ruts, and now I'm blocking the track. And when he tried to get around to me, he sided his bike and he blocked the whole track. And I was like, haha, that's what you get for being impatient. And I went on further, and I eventually pulled over in a safe spot. And I could see about 20, 30 seconds behind me, and I was waiting for a gap. I was waiting a long time to get a gap to go again, and off I went. Um, the Bridgestone Trail was interesting. Like the marshals, I stopped at the big hill going down just to kind of compose myself. I was talking to the marshals. They came over, made sure I was all right. Gave me some pointers about how to go down the hill. Like the marshals were fantastic. I don't think any negatives about the Bridgestone Trail. Or the TRF, I don't think you can blame the marshals. They can only do so much. It's personal ownership of it. Like I just said, they were way too busy. You don't have to look far on Instagram, especially, to find videos of people going insanely way too fast. Like I did watch one, and he's hitting about 60, 70, and he flies past someone doing about So he revs up the bike, flies past someone doing about 40, and then he rips past the next person doing about 70. And it's that which is just not nice. The reason it's not nice is because there's people of various skill levels. There's people who've never been off road. They've decided to take their large GS or whatever off road just to see what it's like. You know, they've never been off road before, and you just have other users just treating it like a personal racetrack. And it's not right. It's not what it was designed for. You want to go and do that. Take your bike somewhere else. It's not appreciated. Like for example, and I do have footage of this. I bent my brake lever. I went out onto the beginner's loop because I changed it. I'd raised it a little bit higher to get a little bit more brake when I stood up. And I went onto the beginner's loop and off I'm going. And next of all, someone beeps me. And I'm like, well, I know there's nothing wrong with my bike. I know there's nothing hanging off the back of it like there was the first time I went on it. I left my straps hanging down, and a nice gentleman had beeped me. So I knew there was none of that. And then he just flew past me. And as he was going past me, he popped the front wheel. And I'm like, this is the beginner's loop. And then he caught up with the guy in the GS in front of me. A beautiful GS, you know. I think he'd road tires on. He wasn't. He was just gingerly going around. And they flew past him on the beginner's trail. Just as you come into the trees where there's very little room. And the GS is a big bike. Completely buzzed him. And I also found that when people were overtaking me, especially on the gravelly section, not just blipping the wheel and just kicking up stones or dust and dirt. It was just, I'm not going to say it was everyone. It's definitely not everyone. It's a small percentage, but it doesn't take many to ruin it for everyone, you know. And that's just it is what it is. It all harks back to the reasons as to why I went. I went for the trails. I didn't go for the beers or the music. I went to ride the trails. And it was very, very off-putting. Like on the Saturday, I went to go out and the trails was closed because there was a code red, which is fine. Someone injured themselves. There was a helicopter and ambulances and all that, but the TRF was closed because I think the medics have to go from there, and it's just safe to close down everything till they can get the level of marshals and medics to the way it needs to be. So I didn't get to do that, and then when I got back to my tent, I was able then to get back onto I got back onto the Bridgestone, and that's when your mum flew past me on the beginners trail. And then I went and I did the TET again, or sorry, the TET. I did the Bridgestone trail again, and I got the first 2.5 sections. There was no one behind me. I've no problem in pulling over for someone. No problem whatsoever. I'll get out of your way if you want to go and go past me. You do you, I do me. But when you're driving the clean line and you've got bikes behind you, I'm not going to go off the track into shit or into the worst, in my mind, the worst line just so you can get past me. You just hang on. Just bear with me. I'll get out of your way as soon as I can. I have a mirror set up that I can see what's behind me when I'm standing up, and that's it. So I did the Bridgestone second time around, and that was fine. And when I went to go and do the TRF, it was closed, so I didn't get the TRF done at all. But my mission was to do the Bridgestone. Mission completed. So I was a little disappointed on the Saturday that I didn't get as much off-roading done as I kind of wanted to. Yeah, just a little disappointed. I certainly felt that they need to do something about the Bridgestone trails. I see people go, oh, they're not expert loops, they're just whatever. So look, I think you need to have a longer beginner's trail where there's strictly no fucking about. It's and make it longer. Maybe cut the course in half. I don't know. They just need to do something to separate the skill levels. I don't want to impede someone who wants to do 50 kilometers an hour. I want them to have their fun. They paid the ticket to come in. They have every right to be on that as much as I do. I just don't want to do that speed. I'm not capable of doing that speed just yet. They need to have their fun. Better way of separating out the two. The guy who has the large adventure bike who's never been off-road, i.e. me last year, he's entitled to be on it. He's entitled to go around as slow as he wants to without feeling the pressure or being buzzed or being beeped at or being people messing going past, you need to separate it out. And then, like, someone said, well, that's what the TRF is for. No, well, I have every right to go on the TRF as well and be careful and try the bog of doom and all that shit. I have all my rights to be on that. But I think there's an understanding that the TRF is faster, it's harder, it's more twisty. So I think, but like, there's videos online of guys like, I didn't know what the speed limit was. Like, don't talk shite. Speed signs fucking everywhere. The speed is not 60, 70. It was 30 or 50 kilometers an hour. It's just absolute crap. They will need to do something for that to pique my interest, which I suppose will, you know, I'll cover whether I'm going back shortly. Um, so that's that. That's enough about about the trials. The demo rides, apparently Husky, BMW, and KTM are not taking only taking UK licenses. I understand it's probably an insurance thing. But yeah, if I wanted to take a GS or whatever, or a Husky or a KTM and have a go with them, I couldn't because I don't have a UK license. I think that's something that they kind of really need to think about or figure out how you can actually, allow non-UK licenses to do a test ride. Anyway, I just thought that was a bit of a negative. And the dust is insane. Even on the trails, at some point you just can't see what's in front of you. Again, it's not a case of being too many bikes or whatever. It's just dusty. It's Mother Nature. It's dry. That's that. There's not much you can do. Just be prepared. If you're camped near the trail where I was, you're going to get absolutely covered. My tent was absolutely just caked in dust, which made spending the day there at all extremely uncomfortable. You could feel it on your lips. You knew it was there. You just couldn't. You just there's nothing you can do about the dust, and that was that. And then last negative then is that there was some bikes stolen. Um, 5 KTMs, and then someone else had their bike stolen. That's very alarming, to be honest with you. That is a big concern that happened. I don't know how they got it. There was a post on the official ABR Facebook page. They posted them themselves about it with the license plate numbers. From where I was standing, I could see security on the exit. I could see them stopping every van. What process is involved in checking the vans, whether they were even taken in a van, it's whatever. I heard people getting their quad locks and their phone mounts taken off the bikes as well. There's 17,500 people. I felt genuinely safe where I was. I felt the people around me were sound and would look after me. But there was people in front of me chaining their bikes up at night, putting them back on their trailers. I just had a disc lock with an alarm, and that was all I had. And I didn't have any problems. I felt genuinely safe, but it is a big cause of concern. Yeah. So the last section is, will I be going back in 2026? So yesterday they released the loyalty tickets for next year, and I know a good few people who are not going back. They've been quite a few times and they're not going back. I honestly don't know. I had budgeted about €1,000 to do the trip, and it pretty much spent €1,000. The reason I go is to do the trails. I'm not going for anything else. They could stick whatever music they want on. None of that interests me. They could stick on whatever speakers they want. I'm not overly interested in going to watch people speak. They all have YouTube channels. I can actually just follow them there if I'm that interested. Like, I did meet Ryan from Fortnine, and I did meet Dave from Really Good TV. That was really cool. That's pretty much it. And I bumped into them. Ryan was talking all about his trip to Ireland when he found out that I was Irish, and obviously Really Good TV Dave, he's Irish as well. So that's fine, and that's all good. If you're into listening to these people talk in their grand, Itchy Boots was there. It's insane. I just seen some videos of people. You'd have to be there early. I didn't want to waste my day queuing to get a good seat to listen to these people. But anyway, will I go back? Like I said, the trail is what I go for. And my experience of the trails this year was nowhere near as good as it was last year. It's too busy. There's too many skill levels on it. There's too many people acting the maggot. and ruining it for everyone else. A small percentage of people are just acting like assholes. And when I compared the TET and doing that bit of TET, even though that to me would have been a lot harder, would have been going at my own pace. I was with really good people. They would have looked after me. I probably would have been fine. You know, there's the TRF, there's the ACT, and there's the TET. Is that more worthy of me spending my money to go and do that over going to the ABR? If you want to go to the ABR on a road bike, sit down, meet your mates, drink, watch live music, eat good food, and be a festival-y type thing, the Glastonbury for bikers kind of thing, it's perfect and all that. Is it worth going to for what I want to do? Probably not. And with that said, I will, at this time, I'm probably 80-20 as to whether I go again. I might just buy a loyalty ticket, and if I decide not to, I'll sell it on. Even though selling the ticket is actually, it's not hard. It's just a bit tricky. You can't advertise it on their Facebook page, which is rightly so because there's so many scammers out there trying to sell shit. You know, that's absolutely fine. They do have a process for moving your ticket to somebody else, and that's all good. So yeah, so I just don't know. I think if I was, obviously I have to take time off. I have to take time away from my family, and it's what's best used. I had an absolute ball on Wednesday doing the TET. Um, I probably, in hindsight, would have said I had a ball if I had done the TET on the Thursday, but probably would have been cursing every single step that Rob and Owen did because that looked a bit hardcore to me. But then there's easier stuff. There is the TRF, and there's the ACT, which is designed for bigger bikes. I think I would be fine on that. Yeah, it's a shame. I definitely left not I left ABR this year not on the same high that I had the year before. Even though I felt much more confident and a much more capable bike for me to drive around. And it was just it was disappointing. But like I said, in the end of the day, that's the reason I went. It might not be the reason you'd go, and I think that probably brings us to the end. So yeah, so first of all, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'd be interested if you did go, comment below what you thought. But I'd say comment below why you went and did it actually meet them requirements as to why you went. Because I think that's the key thing. You know, I think some people didn't care about the trails. They didn't have a trial pass. They wanted to demo a bike, you know, etc. So, you know, but just for me, I was a little disappointed, to be honest. So anyway, that's it. So figure out what's next and decide whether I'll get a ticket or I'll leave it. But like I said, I'm just not I'm not feeling it for next year unless they come out very quickly with an announcement that they're going to change the entire design of the trails. I just don't think it's worth it. Anyway, thanks for watching.